So here with his analysis and reaction is Don Brown, a U.S. Navy JAG officer and constitutional attorney who's running for U.S. Senate in North Carolina. Don, thank you for being here.
Riley, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Of course, these are just allegations. However, everybody wants to know if they're true. So what do you think, sir?
Well, this really goes back to a Supreme Court decision in 1978, Bakke versus the University of California Board of Regents. That was the famous case that held that quota-based systems and admissions are a violation of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution Equal Protection Clause. Yes. Of course, Duke, like Harvard, which has been in the administration's gun sights in Columbia, also for similar reasons, is a private institution. So as you pointed out, by Title VI of the Civil Rights Act applies to private institutions which have taken federal money if they're engaged in discrimination. And so what we're having here appears to be a two-pronged front launched by the Trump administration involving Secretaries Kennedy and McMahon. One involves the Duke Law Journal. And for your audience members who may not know, law schools have what they call law review or a law journal where the top candidates get to write articles. Usually it's the top 10% of the class. And those folks are positioned sometimes to get better and higher paying jobs. So the first prong of Secretary McMahon's investigation is whether some sort of quota system was used either by race or ethnicity to give certain students advantages over others to get on the law journal based upon race or other immutable characteristics. So that's the first prong. Now, the second prong involves a very world-famous, Duke Medical School, and just as a matter of full disclosure, I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina. We're a big rival of Duke, but we understand that Duke has had one of the best medical programs in the world, and it's been a real shining gem for the state of North Carolina. But it appears now in Secretary Kennedy's, who is the Secretary of HHS letter, is now investigating whether or not we are having hires in the Duke Medical School and the Duke Hospital based upon racial or gender or other immutable characteristics. That's really a very serious and dangerous situation if that is the case. The good news for Duke, though, is that as of now, we don't have a lawsuit yet filed against them by the Department of Justice, and the letters appear to give Duke an opportunity to work with the Trump administration to correct what appears to be unconstitutional quotas or illegal quotas under Title VI. So we're going to see how it pans out. Trump administration hasn't brought the boom down yet, but they did freeze $108 million in assets to Duke Medical. So they're very, very serious about this, and it's going to be interesting to see, Riley, how it plays out.
Yeah, so to follow up on that. So number one, if the allegations are true, reform is needed immediately. And I would like to see an apology from the university as well, because this kind of practice, it's tantamount to racism, and it's just sickening to me. So I'd like to see an apology if this is true.
Sure.
Number two, if there is a fight here, do you think it will turn into a lawsuit? And if so, how does that play out?
Well, I think, and interestingly, Duke is one of three major research institutions in the research triangle of North Carolina. There's my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill. There's NC State, the largest institution, and then there's Duke. UNC and NC State are public schools, but UNC Chapel Hill actually ended DEI voluntarily by its board of trustees about a year ago, and the UNC Board of Governors ended it in all state institutions. So state and UNC have ended it. Now, with regard to Duke, yes, I think if Duke doesn't cooperate, the Trump administration will file suit and will accuse it of violating Title VI and will argue that it is discriminating against, students based upon their right to be treated equally under the 14th Amendment as applied through Article 6. I think it's coming if Duke doesn't cooperate, and it should come if Duke doesn't cooperate.
Yes, agreed. So that question is about the what, right? What's really going on here? What's the real story with Duke? But more importantly for me, if it is true, I just want to know why. Why can't we just make things about merit, about people's character, about their academic performance? Why bring race into it? Why bring something like national origin into the conversation? It's a genuine question for you, Don, because I don't understand why anything like that should be relevant on a campus or anywhere else for that matter.
No, but it's a common problem in higher Ivy League-like academia. Now, Duke is an Ivy League. They're in the ACC like Chapel Hill, but they're considered to be an Ivy-like school. And these schools seem to have a sort of a mantra of superiority under which they want to push the DEI programs. And Duke seems to be pushing DEI even as NC State and UNC are sort of turning in a different direction now. They seem to be pushing it with sort of an elitist mentality, just like Columbia was doing it, just like they've done at Harvard. And it shows a lack of grasp upon reality by a lot of these high-powered academics who sometimes can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but can sit up in an ivory tower and think up of a bunch of crazy ideas.
But I'm just trying to understand, what kind of goal are they trying to accomplish? Or what problem do they think that they're fixing by bringing race into the conversation? Because that's just, it's egregious. And I think it's a slap in the face to everybody on that campus.
Well, it starts upon a false doctrine that certain people are being oppressed, which really isn't the case anymore. And yes, we've had racism in this nation, but it's largely, and it's not never going to be totally eliminated, but we're not a racist society.
No.
But this is an attack against American cultures, North Carolina values, and American values, because American values start with a proposition like Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal.
Thank you.
We're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. That means we get an equal start. That means one person shouldn't be given an innate advantage over another just because of some immutable characteristic. They are attacking basic American doctrine here. And it's being run by communists and by socialists and all kinds of academic types who really don't want to buy into the basic proposition embraced in our founding documents that all men are created equal and endowed by our Creator, by the way. Don't like that party with certain unalienable rights.
Well said.
So this is what we're seeing.
Yep, absolutely well said. We have about a minute left on the clock then for you, Don. You're also running for Senate in your state of North Carolina. Please tell us about why you jumped into politics here and what you're running on.
Well, I jumped in initially because North Carolina needed to change. Tom Tillis had gone against the president on multiple fronts and eventually had pulled out. And now it looks like Michael Whatley may be jumping in today. But my campaign has not been. I pointed out differences between these two guys, but I'm running because we got a $37 trillion national debt, first off. Yes. We don't get that under control. This nation is going to disintegrate. Every great power in the face of the earth, from the Romans, who had the denarius, to the Spanish, who had the peso, the British had the pound sterling, had the dominant currency. And when that currency collapses, those nations collapse. Yes. And so we are in a situation right now, it's kind of a period of peace for Republicans anyway, and conservatives with Trump being in power. But you know, the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina will serve 4 years after President Trump's left. We're going to have to take a war to the battle of the Congress, and we've got to cut this administrative state. I'm calling for a Deep State Reduction Act to reduce 2/3 of all administrative agencies, to reduce 2/3 of all federal employees, and apply that savings to the national debt. We got to get the debt under control. We're going to lose it. And so that's largely what's driving this. Good.
And while we're at it, I think we should take the power of the purse away from Congress. They've abused it time and time again, and until they can show us some better habits in terms of spending, I don't think they've earned the right to spend our taxpayer dollars on anything, personally. I'd also like to see salary cuts, but that's just me. In any case, Don, I just want to say thank you for jumping into the race there, and thank you for your insights into this issue at Duke.
You bet, Riley. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.